Okay. All right. The time is 10:30 a.m. It is January 20th, 2024. This is the Libertarian Party of Indiana State Central Committee. I call this meeting to order. Mr. Secretary, go ahead and call the roll.
All right. Chair McMahon is here. Vice Chair Alexander is not here. Secretary Soltz is here. Treasurer Schulteis.
Present.
Political Copeland.
Present.
IT Hagerman. You're muted, Chuck. I can see Chuck. You can speak up at some time. Communications Smith is not here. District 1 Schick.
Here.
District 2 Coquillard.
Here.
District 3 Avery.
Here.
B4 Lundy.
Here.
D5 Shillings.
Here.
D6 Lomax. Hi, Luke. I can't see most of you on my screen.
I know. I'm here. It's just the space bar isn't working for the mute shortcut.
D7 Johnson.
Here.
D8 Engelberth. I don't believe he's here. D9 Kinzer.
Here.
And then we also have Mr. Hirsch, Region 3 alternate from the National LP. So, Mr. Chair, I count 13 voting members present and 3 absent.
All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Everybody should have received it. It was also in the email link, but I will attempt here to share my screen. Here we go. This is the agenda as presented. Oh, go away. Are there any amendments to the agenda as presented? One clarification up at the top, it says the location is the Hilton Garden Inn, because I did not change that correctly. On the version that I'll be putting in our drive and uploading publicly, it will say remote via Zoom on that.
Were we going to address the treasurer job description today or no?
No, you didn't ask for it to be put on the agenda. I just saw you guys talking back and forth. I'm sorry. But I will put it on the next one, Danny, if that is an actual request, which I saw your thumbs up. So yes, I'll put it on the next agenda for February. Okay, hearing no additions to the agenda, is there any objection to adopting the agenda as presented? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is adopted. So the next item on the agenda is the appointment of timekeeper, Mr. Lomax. I'm going to ask you to do that. Do you accept the position, sir?
I humbly accept the position, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Chair's report. Been working with Kristen Alexander to get the membership cards out. Spent a decent amount of time fixing some issues in Civi with memberships. We had a couple that were wonky because of the transition from Wild Apricot to our Civi install. We still had a handful of people who their monthly payments were being processed in Wild Apricot. We have officially stopped doing that. All of them were canceled, of which I believe there were 9. Which was basically, we were paying, I think, $70 a month for Wild Apricot and had 9 monthly contributors. Plus, we were paying credit card processing fees. So it was just easier to cancel those and contact them and ask them to come over. Most of them have, some have not. Some people went and joined at a different membership tier on their own, and it kind of got wonky, and we had to fix those. So doing a lot of that work. I've been going over bills in the legislature, working with the comms team and the social media team to produce regular content. They've been doing a great job. If you notice, there's a lot of activity on our social media profiles. We've been putting out more statements on issues. So that has been great. This past week, I also did our follow-ups with all of our venues and suppliers and whatnot for the annual convention coming up March 1st through the 3rd, touching base with them. Funny story, virtually everyone that we have worked with on a regular basis has had they have moved on to another job or another company. And so the past couple of weeks has been spent getting new people up to speed, and essentially going over the entire convention all over again. So that's been fun. But everything seems to be in order. We do have, we'll talk more in the convention section, but we do have a need for 2 panels. One of the panels that I was working on fell through, so we have 2 spots available for the main stage panel. So that is a thing. I've been working with a couple of the presidential campaigns that want to participate in the state convention. And then I've been working with Ms. Schillings, who has designed, as you can see right here, this 50th anniversary logo, because as some of you may remember, the Libertarian Party was founded July 14th, 1974. The National Party was founded December 12th, 1972. So we are now in our 50th anniversary. She did an amazing job on the 50th anniversary logo. The materials with the logo will be available in our LPIN store, which is being completely relaunched and will be available the end of the month. I also ordered some tip cards that Lori designed. So we'll have those available in the shop as well. There is a sticker shock factor to some of the items in the store. The thing to remember is that shipping is included on those items. So that is something to, like this, to ship this alone from the US Postal Service costs like $4.60 now, just to ship this. But it's included in the pricing that we put up there, so do bear that in mind. If you have something fun or exciting that you think should be added to the shop, please send it to us. Chuck Pullen was appointed up in Lake County to the Johnson Economic Development Board. We're working on a press statement about that, which should go out early next week. The comms committee also had, or comms team has a op-ed from Mr. Will Henry on cannabis issues that will go out later in the week. Next week, towards the weekend is when we have it planned. So we've been pretty active. I've been talking to a lot of members. I've fielded a lot of candidate questions and calls. I've also been traveling with Ms. Alexander, the vice chair, to several county conventions. We both attended the Harrison County Convention last night. And due to a technical issue they were having, I stepped in to chair their convention so that they could actually appoint a new treasurer. And so help them with that convention. They selected their delegates for the state convention, and they're really gung-ho about becoming a very active affiliate there in Harrison County, which is great. Mr. Kinzer was also present, and I probably just stole part of his district report. So was Mr. Hirsch was also there, and neighboring officers from Clark County also came. So yeah, lots of activity preparing for the convention, preparing for nominations. I did notice that the state has neglected to put our forms up on the website. They are missing the CAN 23 and the CAN 33, which will allow us to nominate candidates for the legislature and state offices and then fill those vacancies as they come up. I have requested that they make those forms available. I am waiting to hear back. So any questions? Mr. Saltz, Secretary Saltz.
Yeah, I might have answered my own question, but I still see some of my current memberships in my county as Source Wild Apricot. Is that just because back when they joined, it was on Apricot? That doesn't mean it's still on there.
Correct. No one's on Wild Apricot anymore. Mr. Schulteis has already gone through the process of canceling our Wild Apricot subscription, which they are very uh, reticent to do. Like it has to go through this whole billing review procedure. But no, that means that either they were, when we switched to Civi originally, they were contacts that were in Wild Apricot originally. So that's where they moved over. So I think even mine says Wild Apricot.
They just did a renewal a few days ago. I wanted to make sure I wasn't giving out the wrong link. So thank you.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? Okay, I believe the vice chair presented her or submitted her written report. Were there any questions that maybe I can answer about the vice chair's report? Okay, hearing none. The next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Mr. Schulteis.
Across all of our accounts, we have $31,082.20. We do have 3 sponsorships from presidential campaigns. I don't believe all of those have posted to the accounts yet, and we did sell the voter list to one company for a significant increase over past years. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for helping with fundraising. I believe that's all I have. Oh, as mentioned, we did cancel Wild Apricot, but it is not a easy process. It needs to be approved by their billing department. So we may have one more payment for Wild Apricot. They're also a Canadian company, so there were international transaction fees associated with that. So that will soon be off of our recurring payments.
One other additional finance thing that will be different. Right now, we have been using Planable for a while for our social media posting. They just jacked up the price. It now costs us $26 per team member per month. There are 5 team members. It originally was just costing us, I think it was $80 a month. Now it's per team member. It's rather expensive. Ms. Schillings turned me on to Buffer a few months ago. At the time, and I'd seen them a year prior, at the time, they did not allow admins to have to approve posts. So anybody on the team could post directly to the social platform. Buffer has now added that, and I've calculated that the total cost for Buffer would be $48 a month. So before our next billing cycle with Planable, we'll be switching over to Buffer. So that'll save us almost $100. Mr. Schultz, you have a question?
Yeah, I assume it's not secret, but are we allowed to ask who the 3? I knew of 2 campaigns. Who are the 3 campaigns that got sponsorships?
I was going to discuss that in the convention
Okay,
section
never
of the
mind.
agenda, but yes, we will be talking about that. Any other questions for the treasurer? All right, moving on to the secretary, Mr. Schultz.
All right, so there were some friendly amendments to my initial proposed minutes from the last meeting. So you should be looking at version 2 that I emailed on sometime. Looks like January the 3rd. So be reviewing that. I've met with the bylaws committee. You'll be hearing about that later. We're starting to get trickles in of county update forms and delegates. I'll be checking the delegate. I'll start checking delegate eligibility and adding them to the list this coming week. Working with Miss Alexander on that probably. And yeah, the minutes are as presented.
Question, Mr. Schultz, Mr. Secretary. Because I didn't check the latest version too. Does it include, or have we included the email ballot that was conducted?
When? Oh,
We did
I guess not. No, I apologize. I guess I meant to include that, but I didn't.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. I'll present that for the February meeting.
I think we can do if we just say with a caveat, if somebody would like to move to accept the secretary's report with the provision that it be updated to include the standing rules amendment email ballot.
So moved.
I would motion that.
was moved by Mr. Lomax. Is there a second?
I would
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kinzer. Any objection? Okay. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted with that proviso.
Okay, I will get that out within the next few days. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the secretary? Okay, hearing none, I believe the next item on the agenda is the LNC update. We have with us today Mr. Greg Hirsch, who is the Region 3 alternate. So, Mr. Hirsch, the floor is yours, sir. You are muted, Greg.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm unmuted.
Well, you were unmuted just long enough to say, oh, shit.
Hello? Hello? Am I
We
here?
got you. We got you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, our next LNC Zoom meeting is going to take place next Sunday, February 4th, 7 o'clock p.m. Recently, there's on the LNC list, we recently passed a motion, a resolution basically saying that we oppose the efforts of the U.S. government or any states to be able to throw a presidential candidate off the ballot. There have been a few states that have thrown Trump off the ballot. We put out a motion against that. Not that we support Trump, mind you. Jesus Christ, not that, but basically for any candidate, it's not the role of the state to throw any presidential candidate off the ballot because they could use that to, for our own candidates. And we also recently appointed Jennifer House into the convention committee, the National Convention Committee. Those are the main two things. On the bylaws committee, there's been a couple of bylaw amendments proposed that everybody needs to be made aware of. One, proposed bylaws for national would do away with the region system, and the LNC would only have at-large reps. They would have no region reps at all as it goes through. Which personally, I'm opposed to that. Hopefully, everybody would be opposed to that because that allows for corruption. Another one would allow any state either 10% or 10 members of a state party can petition the LNC to intervene and remove the leadership of a state affiliate, and the LNC can intervene and replace the lead. That's another proposal. Basically, allowing the LNC to interfere with the state party leaderships if 10 people send a proposal. Now, granted, it would be in accordance with that state party's own bylaws, but still, to me, that sounds iffy myself. I just want to make people aware of both of those. That they're be brought up with the bylaws report at the convention. Oh, and another thing. Right now, convention business for national is scheduled to end on Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock. The delegates can decide to extend business into Monday. So if you're attending national, be prepared to stay till Monday and vote yes to extend any needed business into Monday, Memorial Day, if we need to. Traditionally, with the exception of the Reno convention, all conventions always had business during the day on Monday, and I think it may need to happen in order to get things done. Those are the main things I have for now.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Is there any questions for Mr. Hirsch?
Where's the next meeting located at?
Zoom.
Zoom?
Oh, okay. The Zoom meeting, the Zoom one on February 4th. It's by Zoom, and it's also broadcast on YouTube as well. Oh, and that reminds me, we don't have an exact location set yet, but it looks like our next in-person LNC meeting is going to be the weekend of April 6th to 7th in Jacksonville, Florida. That's not yet confirmed. It'll likely be in Florida, but the weekend of April 6th to 7th, we're going to meet in person.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Hirsch? Okay, hearing none, we move on to district reports. District 1, Mr. Schick.
Things are pretty much status quo here, but I am happy that all 3 counties in District 1 are having conventions. Lake County hasn't had even a meeting in a very long time, over a year, but they are scheduling their county convention to be a face-to-face meeting on the 1st of February. And in Porter and LaPorte counties, we tried to schedule our conventions on the same day, trying to maybe entice Donald Rainwater to come up and visit. if he could, see a bunch of libertarians all at the same time. That has not yet been confirmed. Otherwise, things are status quo in terms of regular meetings and Facebook activity and that kind of thing. Any thoughts or questions?
Mr. Secretary, you have your hand up.
Yeah, point of order, Mr. Chair. We skipped director reports in the agenda.
We did, because I can't actually see the agenda. So I apologize for that. We'll consider Mr. Schick's report given, and let's go back up to, sorry about that, the director report, starting with political report, Mr. Copeland.
Let's see. Since our last meeting, I haven't been able to make time to meet with Evan as his request. The illness in his family, then work scheduling conflicts on my side have kind of kept me too busy. But I will get with you on that. I was put in contact with a candidate who is interested in seeking our nomination for the 7th Congressional District, and have been offering advice on or giving him information on how to secure the nomination and steps to take after that. And other than that, there's not been anything that's come across my desk.
Okay, any questions for our political director, Mr. Copeland? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Copeland. Now to the tech director, Mr. Hagerman.
All right. So Larry Silver was having some problems getting access to Civi because he wasn't getting any emails from the system. And so the reason I'm including this in my report was that he had heard from someone that maybe Yahoo was blocking his the emails. And so we switched the email in his account to another one, and then everything worked fine. So I just wanted to document that using a Yahoo account might cause problems if you need to get emails. So even if you are using 2FA, if you have a Yahoo account, you might want to consider getting a different account and getting that to me for the email backup. I learned from Andy Burns how to work in SearchKit some more. He had created a couple of district filters. I have since created the rest of them. So there are now 9 filters for each of the districts. They can be selected under advanced search. So if you go into advanced search and then into the basic criteria, there's a field called groups. And those 9 districts can now be filtered there. I did actually compare the counties to our physical map on the website, because some counties are in multiple districts, and it reflects the districts as we have them mapped out on our lpin.org site, so that you can use those there. And I also worked with Andy to fix Allen County's contribution page. And I went out to their county page and looked at the contribution page, and the link does work, and it does seem to be functional. So that should now be usable by Allen County. That is the end of my report. Are there any questions?
For clarification, it's not all Yahoo accounts. It was specifically something with Mr. Silver's account. I noticed it when it was coming, when it would come back, the bounce report from it said that there was a syntax error. We've not been able to figure out what the syntax error was, but we're not seeing that with universally for all Yahoo accounts.
Okay. Well, then that's
just Mr. Silver.
That's good then.
I will also note, Mr. Hagerman, I went to look at one of the dashlets, actually the member dashlet, and it does not have the option for, it has districts 1, 2, and 7, but not the rest of them. So we may need to work on making sure that the groups ended up being added to the dashlet, because they weren't.
Okay, now I don't know. I didn't add them to the dashlet, so that
we can talk about that later. Just want to make sure that people are aware. it's only a feature in advanced search that we need to finish adding it to the dashlet for that. Mr. Lomax was first.
Yeah, so I know I've asked this question before, but now that we're a little bit further into it on the Civi thing, Chuck, is there any time frame as to when we'll also get dashlets for individual counties? Or is that going to be something that is going to take a lot more time?
For what? What are we looking for?
For that advanced search or for the dashlets so that we can have membership reports for individual counties instead of just for each district? Because right now, when I'm trying to send out county communications, I have to select the people that I know are in Hancock County out of all of the people that pop up in District 6. And it's a bit of a pain in the butt.
I can actually show you how to do that. The dashlets show you every member that you have within your district. There is a way to do county. There's also an advanced search. You can select the county in advanced search. That's always been there. So that's yeah. But I guess you just need a little bit more training. I'll help you out, Luke.
Some training.
Miss Avery.
So are we doing two-factor authentication now on Civi?
Yes.
I haven't noticed it pop up yet, but maybe I need to log out and log back in.
I will check your account to make sure that it is turned on. Maybe we might have turned it off on you, but when we were doing the transition. But I'll check your profile and see if 2FA is turned on for you.
I'll go look.
Yeah,
Okay,
and my
thank you,
app
Mr.
doesn't
Cooper.
work. I can only use email.
Oh, that sucks. It may need to be, is it the app doesn't work or you need to have a new connection to it? I can't hear you, Mr. Simpson.
My app seems to work fine. It's the website will only allow me to use the email option. So it's something on
Mr.
my
Hagerman,
account.
if you can check to make sure that it's two-factor mobile is turned on for Mr. Saltz as well. Actually, it'd be great if you could go through all of the SCC members and make sure. That'd be helpful. Let's just do it that way instead of doing it one by one when people complain. I will say that I had anticipated on having starting the process of getting counties onboarded with their own Civi connected to the LPIN by the end of this month. With the convention and the candidates, that's not likely to happen. However, I am more up to speed on the process and will be sending out information to the counties that I have on my list on first on deck. I'll be sending out to them on what they need to do and have ready, but I do not anticipate doing the onboarding until post-convention. But very quickly after the convention, probably within 14 days of the state convention. But just so if you hear from your district and they're asking about that and they're on the list, they'll get information about what they need to prepare for, and then we'll start tackling them after the convention. And I've been meeting with Andy fairly regularly, who manages our Civi instance for us. And we actually just went through the process of me spinning up some of these kind of shell sites on what that is and making sure that they're looking the same across each one. We had a difficulty where the top banner information was not formatted correctly. And so we were looking at how to fix that. So it is in process, but I just realistically don't think I'm going to get to it until after the convention, because it is a lot of work and the convention is kind of priority. Any questions, any other additional questions for Mr. Hagerman? Okay, hearing none. Miss Alexander submitted a membership report. I can share my screen because I have it. No, I don't. Hold on. 1 second, por favor. Civi will let me do that now, or not Civi. Go. This is the membership report that we received from Miss Alexander. Our total memberships, which is, people can have multiple memberships. So our total memberships is up from 578 to 591. Our unique members, which is actual individual members, is up from 517 to 522. This also does not include, we had a couple people, this only goes through, I think, Wednesday. So this has not been updated after Wednesday, and we had a couple other people who joined and renewed, as well as we got a new lifetime member. I think Wednesday evening, we had a new lifetime member. This is the new format for the membership report, and this is what it will look like moving forward with historical data, month over month compared to the previous year. And then we'll have, moving forward, annual numbers. And we're going to go back and get the 2022 numbers so that we can compare where we are historically. In 2026, the next committee will be able to look at the report and go, okay, this is where we're at from 2023. And then we have that broken down by districts. The district number does not include unique members, but it does include all of the different membership types. So that is the membership report. Ms. Avery, you have a question. Ms. Avery.
She's
I'm trying. You may have just answered my question. My question was, so that number for the district total is not unique members. It's just all memberships together.
Correct.
Okay. Because I was looking at my membership number and I was getting something different, but that would be why.
I think we're going to work on adding that into the next one. We'll see. But this will be the basic format moving forward. Any other questions about the membership report? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to continuing the district reports, starting with District 2, Ms. Coquillard.
All right. Conventions are coming up for our counties. I have heard that Marshall County is planning their convention for 2/13, but as of right now, there's no time or location specified. I'll be following up with Tony again after the meeting to see if he's figured out. He's also expressed concerns about making quorum, and we've been talking about how to get some people to attend his meeting. LP Elkhart, our convention is February 10th at 1 p.m. at the Elkhart County Library. This is our new location for the year. We'll be meeting every second Saturday at 1 p.m. at the Elkhart County Library downtown. St. Joseph County's convention is February 17th at 1 p.m. at the St. Joseph County Library. Kosciuszko's is January 26th at 6:30 at Hoplower Brewery in Leesburg. Also, I wanted to say that St. Joseph County actually paid for some radio advertising to advertise their convention, as well as mention all the other county conventions. Also advertises our just district website, so that's going to be going out this week. Members from LPEC attended the Veterans Legislative Day at the State House Tuesday on the 16th. That was a really great event, well attended, and we made some great connections, talked to a lot of people, passed out the world's smallest political quiz and other things. Kosciuszko County is planning on participating in Warsaw Education Foundation's Quiz Bowl on March 12th at the Warsaw High School at 7 p.m. Come out and root them on. All proceeds from entry fees go to fund educational grants given to teachers in support of programs and projects for student learning. Also, definitely check out the progress on our district website at lpind2.org. That's all I've got. Questions?
Any questions for Ms. Coquillard? Okay, hearing none. District 3, Ms. Avery.
I realized I never remuted myself again. Whoops. Okay, I don't have much. Allen County's convention is planned for January 28th at noon at Mad Anthony's. DeKalb County is on February 7th, 6:30 at Pizza Hut. Whitley County's is on February 3rd at 10 a.m. at the Peabody Public Library. And I have not heard from Randolph or Wells County about their conventions. That's pretty much all I've got. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Avery? Okay, hearing none. That is District 4, Mr. Lundy.
Howdy, folks. Not a lot new other than it's convention season. Ronnie Dixon continues to work up in Boone County. He's also expressed an interest in possibly running for state rep, so we're talking about that. Hendricks County, they had their convention. It went well. Things are going well. We think we might also have a district rep candidate from Hendricks County. So, and those two districts would be side by side. So that would be nice. We get some good coverage as far as when we're talking about canvassing and scheduling things like that. So that could be fun. Montgomery County Convention is scheduled for 2/19/2024 at the Crawfordsville Library, 6:30 p.m. Morgan County had to reschedule its convention. We'll actually be having it on March 12th at this point because due to lack of quorum. So I do have that county level candidate application in outline form. I do not have it in like a Google form yet. But I mean, if other counties want to use it, it's not really going to be in Google form anyway. So I just need to send it out to you guys so you have it. Putnam County, I think it's a new member reach out to me and, say they want to get more involved. So we're going to try to schedule a meetup, hopefully end of the month or end of February. I can't remember what date he gave me. I put it in my phone. But anyway, so maybe we might finally get some motion in Putnam County as well. Tippecanoe County's off to a rip-roaring start. They have at least 6 candidates come out of their convention. They're in discussions for a couple more, so look for them to have a big pile of candidates, which will be fun and exciting for them. So that's it.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Lundy?
Sorry, was that 6 candidates you said?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That is correct. Okay, hearing no more questions for Mr. Lundy. Thank you, Mr. Lundy. Moving on to District 5, Ms. Schillings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Grant County will be having their convention in January 27th at Sender's Cafe in Marion. And that's going to be at 10:30 a.m. if anybody wishes to attend.
Oh.
They are possibly receiving a new chair for that district because Clayton, our lovely secretary here, has been very busy being in the political realm in his county. And Clayton is now going to amend the location.
Right, yeah. So Setter's Cafe apparently closed, which I learned after we scheduled it there. So it is now going to be at The Branch in Fairmount, Indiana. Same time, same place. Still a coffee shop.
Right. Hamilton County did have their convention this past Sunday, and we didn't have any candidates speak at that time, but we did have, candidates for Hamilton County at that time. I have an amendment for that. Donald Rainwater did speak, and then Joe Hopman played a nice message from Chase Oliver as a presidential candidate. And our next regular meeting will be February the 21st. The location to be determined as our regular location had a kitchen fire and might possibly still be closed. We did have someone reach out to me to try to consider being a District 5 representative, and I think he would be an excellent candidate for that role. And we're in conversations with that, and I sent his contact to Evan so he can know who that is. But he's not confirmed yet, so I'm not going to give his name. And then Madison County is going to have a convention in February. It's going to be February 9th at 6 p.m. at Arts Pizza in Anderson, if anybody's interested. And that's all the updates I have. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Schillings?
Sorry, could you repeat that Madison County date?
It's going to be February 9th at 6 p.m. Arts Pizza in Anderson.
Sorry, thank you.
No worries.
And I did receive the email. I didn't know if you needed me to respond to it or if you were just informing me.
Mostly informing you, so you know
Okay.
that's happening. We can have further discussions about it if you wish later.
Okay, absolutely. Any other questions for Ms. Schillings? Hearing none, District 6, Mr. Lomax.
All right, so District 6, more of the same. Johnson County is actually holding its convention today at 2:00 p.m. I believe it's at Mashcraft Brewery, but it's not listed on the LPIN website for the events page. The event is, but not the location. So if I know Kappas, I know he's probably holding it at Mashcraft today. Hancock County is going to be holding its convention on Sunday, February 4th at 2 p.m. at the Hancock Public Library in Greenfield on McKenzie Road. I have not heard back from the remaining counties on their convention or activities. Local news here in Buck Creek Township, which is actually where I live, our entire township advisory board resigned this past week because they were all 3 Republicans, because the new trustee apparently ousted the old clerk of the township and hired one of her friends and doubled the salary and said that she's a deputy trustee now. And then they bought 2 fire trucks for $100,000 without approval of the advisory board. So just a whole bunch of corruption going on, and it's been all over the Greenfield Daily Reporter. So the newspapers picked it up. They haven't called me for comment yet, but that's because the reporters there are not familiar with me yet, but they will be shortly. So that's big news around here because it is raising awareness for the need for local officers. We also have a upcoming vacancy at the State House of Representatives level for District 53. Bob Cherry is retiring after probably 50 years of public service. And Keely Buttram, who is currently on the Hancock County Board as an at-large, has announced that she is going to run for Bob Cherry's seat. And I am planning on announcing at our Hancock County Convention next Sunday, the 4th, 2 weeks Sunday for the 4th, that I'm going to run for her at-large seat. So I'm going to be seeking our nomination at that Hancock County meeting on the 4th. So any support that anybody wants to offer would be greatly appreciated, because it also might mean that we have a change of leadership in Hancock County as well. So as you guys know, Larry Silver has been extremely involved in everything, and he's going to be my recommendation. So but yeah, other than that, I'm still planning on continuing as District 6 representative. If you guys will have me after the state convention, and I still plan on attending the national convention. And that's it for me.
Well, it's not up to us if you're the District 6. It's the county chairs in your district that decide. Also, please put together a press release and send it to media@lpin.vote so that we can send out a press release. It will have your information and stuff like that on it. It will look like it came from Hamilton County. But that way our media team can orchestrate that. And also it might be an interesting bit that other newspapers around the area might want to pick up.
Andrew luckily is on our county board, so he is already working on that. So he's hopefully going to present that in the next couple of days to us. So.
And my request though is that you as the county chair do need to send it to the actual media team. Okay. Not just let Andrew take care of it. It needs to go through the right channels.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lomax? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to District 7, Mr. Johnson.
Nothing much to report. We're having our county, Marion County Convention next Saturday, the 27th, at 1 p.m. at the Rathskeller. In the Veterans Room, if anyone wants to attend. And as Paul mentioned, we have a possible candidate for Congress named Rusty Johnson. He's a disabled veteran. He seems like a pretty good guy, but we're talking to him further next Saturday at the convention. Nothing else to report besides that.
I would just like to make an addendum to Mr. Rusty Johnson. He specifically reached out to the state party. I've been communicating with him. He asked about the nomination process and everything, and then immediately did everything that was required. The interesting thing was he had his own booth at the Veterans Service Day at the state legislature, and he reached out to us to ask if we had any LP specific literature that he could hand out to people at the State House at his own personal booth. And I thought that was significant to share. So with that, is there any other questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay, hearing none. District 8, Mr. Engelberth is not here. I did hear that Owen County today, they had their convention scheduled today for 2 o'clock, I believe, and I did get word that they are postponing it to February 10th. I don't know if it's the same location, but in time, but it has been postponed to February 10th. That's all I have information about within District 8. District 9, Mr. Kinzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in District 9, before the new membership report came out, you said Wednesday, so is the day it would update. I was showing 79 members, 8 affiliated counties still. Lawrence County held their annual convention on the 13th at Asian Pearl in Bedford. Donald Rainwater joined us to speak about the rainwater campaign, along with the state chair and vice chair was there with us as well. We updated some bylaws in Lawrence County to reflect. We removed our county membership fee that people could do if they wanted to just join the county level, and we changed our convention time frame to 30 days. We showed 45 days originally in our bylaws that you had to give notice to the members that we're having our convention. Harrison County also held their county convention on the 18th, as you spoke about earlier, at Beef O'Brady's in Corydon. Brian Tincher was elected the new treasurer. They discussed outreach and appointed delegates to the state convention. Tanya Hudson was there in attendance with us. She spoke about her race to be the nominee for lieutenant governor. Let's see. Jackson County will be holding their convention tomorrow in Brownstown at Sidetracked at 2:30. Floyd County will be holding theirs the 31st in New Albany at the New Albany Library at 7 p.m. Monroe County is going to be holding theirs February 1st, I believe at 6 p.m. in the Monroe County Library in Bloomington. Brown County is going to be holding theirs February 7th. Still working on a time and a location that they're going to be holding that. I haven't heard back from Linda Christopher yet on that, so I will update you guys on that one. Clark County will be holding theirs in the back room of Kingfish in Clarksville on February 13th at 7 p.m. Jefferson County will be holding theirs on February 15th at Harry Stone Grill in Madison at 5:30. Washington will also be holding theirs the same day at 7 in Salem. We'll be holding our next district call February 11th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And I think that's all on our county conventions at this time. And I appreciate it. I did want to add in, if I could, just everyone remember Jason Straw at this time. He lost his wife a few days ago, and it's just a bad deal for him and very sad moment. So,
Yeah, I was going to do that at the end of the meeting. And we still will. Just wanted to point out to Mr. Kinzer, February 11th is the Super Bowl, just FYI.
oh, I did not catch that. Thank you for telling me, so I will change that.
Yeah, you might. I mean, I don't care, but I think some of your county chairs might care.
I will update that with you guys.
As well as point of interest, at the Clark County Convention, there's going to be a forum between our gubernatorial candidates, Mr. Don Rainwater and Miss Rhonda Green. So that should be interesting.
I spaced that one, so my apologies again. But
just wanted to make sure people were aware of that. Any questions for Mr. Kinzer? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Kinzer. And next on the agenda is a 10-minute break. Do you guys want to take the 10-minute break? If you want to take the 10-minute break, please put your hand up. Use the thing so I can, raise your hand. Okay, well, okay, so we will take the 10-minute break. Remember, we still are on Zoom and still are recording. So mute and turn your video off if need be. And I will be back in a moment as well. So the time is 11:19. Please be back by 11:29. We're in recess. Just so everybody knows, if you wanted to ask me something or anything, I am back in the room.
Mr. Chair, point of order is taxation theft.
I do believe taxation is theft.
Hey, Paul, are you there?
Yeah.
I just want to let you know that recently Evan asked me to create candidates off of the candidate what is it? The
Candidate application form.
application form. We've never done that before. I don't know if you were aware of that, but you do it the same way, but they expire right after the convention. I forget. I think March 9th was the date that we had. And that way anybody that comes out of the convention as the nominee, we can go in and extend that to the end of the year, and everybody else can expire. But that was new, and I'm, as always, happy to help create them from either form. But I just want to make you aware of that, because I don't know if you knew about that.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind as the procedure for unconfirmed nominees.
Yeah, because the candidate information form, and why doesn't it go to me when I'm speaking? That's weird. Okay. There we go. When the candidate information form is specifically supposed to be used for candidates on the county level. Because the candidate, that's where we get the information for people that aren't seeking the state party's nomination. The candidate application form is the ones that are telling us that they want to run for office. And we may need to update, well, I know for a fact we need to update the candidate application form. There is a procedural issue with it that I'll address during the convention time. But we need to add some of that information over to it. Have you received headshots from any candidates, Mr. Copeland, recently?
The only candidate that I have received headshots from is Rhonda.
Okay, can you make sure that is added into the system? I don't know if it is, but the last time I looked, it wasn't, because I need to be able to pull that to put on the candidates page.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get that
uploaded.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
The only other difference when I was creating those was I said no when it said on the ballot, because they're not on the ballot yet, and I didn't worry about the number of candidates in the race because we don't know, and some of those questions that just didn't make sense to answer, or because they're not technically on the ballot, you answered them differently, but otherwise you create it the same way.
Okay. Interesting.
I was just going to say, just so you're warned, I sent you my opinions on your bylaws things.
And I want to make it clear that those are from Evan, not from the committee. We can't.
Oh, I
change
understand. I sent my feedback and opinion. He can do with that whatever he wants.
I'm going to ignore it.
Do that at your own peril, sir. Do that at your own peril.
It's they're submitted. They can't be altered or amended at this point until the convention. So it is what it is.
I have something to think about ahead of time. So maybe you can prep some amendments ahead of time that you would like to friendly oppose from the floor.
Okay, I will look at them and I'll consider them, but I also worked really, really hard on it. So
I know what you're trying to get at. I see some other things that maybe you didn't.
Okay, I will look at them and give them all the due and care and respect that they deserve.
Go straight to the trash.
Never. Mr. Schultz can tell you that I took things that people said. I took them to heart and was listened, and I was open to the amendments within the bylaws committee.
Yeah, it was about 50-50. Couple things, about half the things he's like, yeah, that's a good idea, I'll change it. And the others, he was like, yeah,
no,
yours.
I listened, but
And that's why I'm giving it to you now instead of day of convention, to give you time to think about it and look at it.
Okay. And it might, and I'll respond to you and tell you why I either think it's good or why I think it's garbage.
I mean, we'll just fight about it on convention day, and that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Danny
Okay.
doesn't have bad ideas.
What's that?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. That is a lie. Yes, he does. The time is now 11:29. I'm calling us back in from recess, so we are back in order. And the next on the agenda is the data team, Mr. Lundy.
I don't think we have any actual updates for the data team this month.
Okay, hearing none. Moving on to the next item of the business is the convention for 2024. A couple of items. I still do not have the keynote speaker confirmed. It may end up being via Zoom, so I'm still working on that. We do have Brian Nichols doing the special running you through your first interview, which will actually be done for a podcast for candidates as a training. Kara Schultz will be there doing a training for candidates as well. The three presidential candidates that have already purchased the presidential package are Chase Oliver, Mike Termott, and Lars Mopstead. I do want the other candidates to know that Lars Mopstead also purchased a lifetime member of the LPIN so that he could participate in the coffee and donuts with the chair on Saturday morning and specifically get pinned at that event. So if Mike Termott and Chase Oliver would like to do the same, our donation tab is always open. But the convention seems to be moving along fairly well. We had a logistical discussion with the venue on the Pie to the Face fundraiser. They thought it was really cool, and they wanted to make sure that we would be able to get everything moved out of the way quickly during what's called the room flip to be able to do that before karaoke starts at 9 p.m., which is also been worked out logistically. So that's a good thing. So we will have karaoke after the dinner, the awards dinner on Saturday evening. Any questions about the convention? Oh, the thing about the convention form, our bylaws, and when they were originally amended, said that every candidate seeking the LPIN's nomination had to fill out a candidate application prescribed by the SCC. The original form had on it that each candidate must have 2 endorsers, not nominators, but endorsers. And the endorsers had to be either a county chair or a member of the SCC. We've always done that. We've always had it. However, on the form that was posted, the electronic form, the line for where to enter who your endorsers was not on the form. So because it was not on the form, I'll be asking, as I believe we did last year, who the endorsers are for that candidate. So that will be the method for that, but it's something we need to make extra special care of to make sure it's there in the future if we're, using the online form to do it. But so that is just a thing to note that there is not a space there. I didn't want to add it in now because we've already had multiple people submit the form and it not have it on there, and I didn't want to make it look like they did not complete the form. Any questions about the 2024 state convention? Okay, cool. Hearing none, moving on to 2024 national convention. Really, the only thing that I have to talk about that is I do highly recommend staying at the host hotel, having spent a lot of time in DC. It is not fun walking around or trying to Uber around DC when you are on a tight deadline. So I do recommend staying at the host hotel. I am recommending that the state party not get a suite this year. This will be the first time in my existence in the state party that we have not had a suite at the national convention. The reason being is because the cheapest suite is $7,000, which is $5,000 more than we've ever paid before. So we will have a breakout space for our region, which is required to be provided by the national party. So there will be a regional breakout space where we will have our vote for our region rep and region alternate. It will be on Friday and it will be for 1 hour because they only have a couple of those spaces and they're going to rotate the regions through them. I will be coordinating with our delegation on a loose location for candidates to come and meet with Indiana on premises. But as of right now, I don't believe it is within the financial responsibility of the state party to secure our own suite at the convention. Any questions about the national convention?
I do, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, I was all the way at the end of my scroll, so I couldn't see your hand. Mr. Schultz, Mr. Secretary.
Isn't there a cheaper option to basically just get a king size bedroom? I mean, I know that won't be as comfortable as we'd like, but would that be worth getting?
That is just a hotel room, and that is the exact same room that I stayed in when I was in DC. You cannot fit more than 5 people in that room. It's not a king suite, it's a king room. So no, it is, I, having been there, having seen it, I know exactly which room it is. It is literally smaller than a bedroom.
I've fit more than 5 people on a king size bed before, but I'll leave that up to your discretion, Mr. Chair. Not like that.
I'm not judging. I'm not judging. Yeah, I don't need to, you know.
What you do needs to stay with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you do what you want to do, but that doesn't mean I want to hear about it.
I'm serious. It is a tight room. I don't think we could fit more than 5 people in that room, and our delegation size is 40 plus alternates. So I don't think it would be reasonable or feasible to do that. We'll probably just end up keeping all of our convention materials and things in whatever room I'm in, as the breakout point for that. But I'm pretty sure I can find a location to coordinate with all of the different campaigns for president, LNC offices, things like that, to come and speak to our delegation directly. I'm sure I can find us a space to do it. I feel like I can probably do it on site as well, or within a block of the location of the host venue. But I just don't see any way that we can fit our delegation into one room like that. And it's definitely not. I mean, you guys can override me and tell me to go purchase that $7,000 room, but I don't think it's a good use of our money, personally. Any other questions about the 2024 National Convention? Okay, hearing none. And since I wasn't looking before, I was on the wrong screen. Did anybody have any questions about the 2024 state convention that I might have missed? No, okay. The next item on the agenda is the bylaws committee. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Schultz. Mr. Secretary, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Everyone, you should have gotten an email from me on behalf of the Bylaws Committee. There were 3 proposals to change either the bylaws or the standing rules. Both authors talked to the committee in some form or another about concerns we had or what we think potential debate might be, or better wording. Both Mr. McMahon and Ms. Alexander were amenable and helpful. Trying to find where that email is that I just sent. Why is this so hard? Oh, because it's in the thread, and Danny messed everything up. That's okay. I don't like the way Gmail does threads. That's okay. Notice that we do propose an order. So you'll get the full report, including summaries that we think need to be presented to the delegation. That'll be sent to you all electronically, probably sometime next week once we have finalized that. However, we did want to get the final form of the bylaws, the actual proposals out in our proposed order to present them. you, as the SCC, you can override our recommendation on the order. You can also make amendments to our summaries if you really feel it's necessary, that we're poisoning the well against the delegation or something. But it is tricky, the order. Particularly Proposal 1 is going to be very contentious with at least a few counties that have had issues with the SCC or don't necessarily want people outside of their county participating. That will be very contentious. Bylaws Proposal 2 will likely be contentious simply because of its length. And it moves so many things from the standing rules to the bylaws, which makes them much more difficult to change, especially by the SCC. And then there is Proposal 3, which is relatively simple and seems like it would be a good candidate to go first. However, if it went first, it would require a de facto wording change of the already complex and wordy Proposal 2, which is why we feel that Proposals 1 and 2 should stand and pass first, and then we can just present the simple version 1 and version 2 of amendment of Proposal 3. So that the body can easily understand what is changing, and we can prevent as much amending from the floor on that as possible, because there will likely already be many proposed amendments from the floor. This is going to be a very contentious year when it comes to bylaws and standing rules changes. And yeah, expect to see the report and summaries out soon. I don't think we'll need a special meeting for that. We can get the actual proposals out once we've decided the order here in this meeting to the body. And then we can, in the February meeting, you can look over the full report and make sure there are no concerns before it's printed for the convention. I think that's, I mean, I'm happy to answer questions, Mr. Chair, but.
I'll just make the statement that I did, in discussing with the bylaws committee, I had stated a preference of having Ms. Alexander's go first, simply because once she's never presided over a bylaws debate or discussion before. I have. Having her see me do it, because I don't even know if she's really seen it happen. I know it's happened at least one convention, but I don't know how involved she was in it. My two proposals, at least one of them is it's a change, and there's going to be a lot of discussion, and there might be some heated comments, and I didn't want her to be thrown into the fire first. However, it is within order for the person with the gavel to seek support from virtually anyone. They can request it from anyone. But Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Rutherford will be there in attendance, and as long as they are not speaking to the motions, they can assist her. I will not be able to. I can't, if she asks me a question about how to proceed, I can't answer it. That would be inappropriate as the mover of the amendment. That being said, I do not disagree with the committee's decision to have Proposal 1 and 2 go first in the order of 1, 2, and 3, because they are correct. It will add additional time explaining the change in the third proposal, if that proposal was made to go first. It will probably take another 10 minutes, and somebody's going to be like, oh, blah, 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 and we're going to get into a debate. So I do agree with the committee on it. So I don't object to their recommended order of presenting them number 1, number 2, and then number 3. I don't object to it. I will say that as a process, the SCC approves the order. We either reject it or we approve it. If we reject it, it goes to the committee, or it goes to the floor in the order it was presented. FYI, it was presented, it was sent number 1, number 2, and then number 3. So it wouldn't essentially we're arguing or discussing over nothing, because if we don't accept it, it still goes the way that they were received, which is 1, 2, and 3. Also, the summary, we have to give notice within 30 days of the bylaws proposals only. We're not required to give the summary notification. With the summary report, once the committee gets done with that, what I'll probably do as chair is submit that via an email ballot so that we can get it done as quickly as possible prior to our next meeting in February. That way we can put the summary up on the website and things like that. I do not intend on printing the summary or the report in the convention brochure. We will just make that available on the website and in printed form at the convention, but not in the convention brochure. So what our decision today would be is accepting the recommendation of order of presentation by the bylaws committee, just for that clarification. Mr. Lomax.
So I'm going through my inbox right now and I cannot find it anywhere. Is there any way that Secretary Schultz could send that to me again, the proposals from the bylaws committee? Because I can't find it anywhere. I know you said it's lost because Danny was on a thread, but I can't even find the thread.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. And Mr. Chair, as presenter, I don't know if I have primacy, but I would like to follow up on what you said, or just.
I'll let you do that at the end. Mr. Schick is next for a comment or question.
Okay. Well, you did say something incorrect. I'm sorry. The SCC, by the wording of the standing rules, can amend the order as well.
I'm sorry, we did amend it. The previous language was just accept or reject. The previous language of the bylaws committee said that we could either accept the report or accept them in the order that they were originally presented to the committee. But I guess you are correct. I'm sorry. Mr. Schick.
I just wanted to suggest, I seem to remember in prior state conventions, the chair would appoint or identify a parliamentarian, someone, part of the group who would be an authority on parliamentary procedure during those kinds of discussions. And so anyway, I just wanted to suggest, maybe you or Kristen, if you thought there was going to be any issues, if Kristen needed some backup on, what's the right procedure to follow here, somebody could be identified as a parliamentarian to help her with that.
It's something that I'll explore, and I might talk to a state chair or former state chair and see if they're willing to just serve in that capacity. The chair is the parliamentarian in our organization, unless presented or selected prior to. The body can always overrule the chair on rulings and decisions that they make. But so that's how we've operated that way for a considerable amount of time, not designating a specific parliamentarian. But we could, in this instance, have a parliamentarian designated specifically to assist and those matters right there. Thank you, Mr. Schick. Mr. Schultz, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, so I do want to say, and I'll respond to some things in the chat, but it is not for lack of effort or work on behalf of the bylaws committee that we don't have like a full report and it wasn't emailed out. I mean, we had schedules to work around. We met multiple times. We contacted the authors multiple times. They went through multiple versions. The SCC is not voting on the content. I don't know that I will vote yes or, to all of these proposals on the floor. I don't know that I won't propose an amendment from the floor as a delegate. But I think we have sufficient information here to vote on the order. So they were presented to the SCC so they could be sent out to the delegates. Neither the bylaws committee nor the SCC has the power to change the wording of a proposed amendment as long as it's duly made. And we just have the power to change the order and make a summary. And we did work with the authors to adjust them. But when the author says no, there's nothing we can do. So I really want to avoid having to call a special meeting of the SCC to hash this out. So I do apologize. I understand that it's short notice, but we got them on December 31st. We spent, a couple of weeks talking between us and the authors, and I got that out as soon as I could. So I apologize.
Actually, I don't even think there's an apology necessary, because the rules state that the bylaws committee, the deadline is 60 days before the convention for the bylaws committee to receive bylaws proposals. And the bylaws committee is responsible to report back the same to the SCC within 30 days of the convention. So they were within, they're actually ahead of time. As far as, we're not reviewing the substance of the proposals. We're reviewing what order they should be presented to the convention in. And it's whether or not we accept that, their recommendation of proposal or not. Not the the board can't not hear or amend the proposals. Ms. Schillings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify, there's two versions of proposal 3. Are we to be reviewing version 2 and disregard version 1?
They're both being presented. The intent of the bylaws committee, what they asked Kristen, who submitted that proposal, was would she be okay with submitting two versions of the same amendment, one that makes it within the bylaws and one that is within the standing rules. That way it's, if the first two proposals, if proposal 2 passes, then they would submit proposal 3A. If proposal 2 does not pass, then proposal 3B becomes the main. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure I needed to consider both of them. Thank you.
And the wording is the same, except maybe a typo, but I did a copy paste. It only changes the reference location.
Yeah. Because if
From
proposal 2
bylaws to
passes,
standing.
if proposal 2 passes, it would then be amending the bylaws. If proposal 2 doesn't pass, then proposal 3 would be amending the standing rules.
So, and then that makes sense why the third one would be the one that has to go last, because you have to make sure that you know what you're amending so that you don't pass one that amends the bylaws and then you have to go back and pass another one that amends standing rules. Okay,
Correct.
I see what you guys are saying now.
Yeah.
I was a little lost there for a second, but thank you for walking me through that and holding my hand.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Schultz? Soltz, sorry, Mr. Soltz. Added an H in there for some reason. On the recommendation of the bylaws committee for the order of presentation. Mr. Soltz, I would consider it an order for you to make the motion.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move to present the 3 duly made motions to the state convention in the order emailed.
I will second that motion.
The motion was made by Mr. Soltz, bylaws committee chair. It was seconded by Mr. Lomax. We'll just do it. All those. Okay, Ms. Schillings.
I would make it a point to say that there's actually 4 proposals because the version 3B is a separate individual one.
That is true.
So I would disagree. There are 3 proposals. There are 2 versions of one proposal. But I can friendly amend my motion if Lomax will still second. 3 duly made proposals, third having 2 versions, or something like that. Or we can say just 4. We can say 4 if it makes everybody feel better.
Technically, Ms. Schillings is correct. They are both proposals. The mover would then pick which one they're going to move and remove from the table the other one. Would actually be the procedure. So she is correct. It is 4 proposals.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Schillings, for that.
I've changed it if Lomax is okay.
Yes, I'll still second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, hearing none, the proposed order of presentation is adopted. And as soon as Mr. Soltz and the bylaws committee get me the summary report, I will be sending that out as an email for review, and I'll specify, let's do a discussion in this email thread, and then we will have a vote in another thread. So be on the lookout for both threads. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. And also thank you to the Bylaws Committee, which consists of Mr. Russell Brooksbank, Mr. Greg Nolan, Mr. John Schick, and Mr.
Chuck Hagerman.
Schultz, and then Mr. Chuck Hagerman. They really took care to review whether they agreed with the bylaws proposal or not. They took the time to address any potential concerns, to discuss the intent. They really put in a lot of effort for review, which is exactly what this committee was designed to do. And to be honest, I'm always right. But they pointed out some instances where I wasn't exactly correct. So I value the work that they did, and it was exactly what the committee was designed to do. And I think it's great that you guys did that. So thank you for the time and effort you've put in and continue to put in. Next on the agenda is voter gravity. Everybody should have received a PDF copy of the voter gravity contract. I know that there were some questions. One of them was from the Vice Chair, Ms. Kristen Alexander, which asked if we would incur any costs as the state party. And in that, in the contract, it says that we as the state affiliate don't incur any fee, but the candidates that use the system do. It was broken down by districts and then congressional races, and then it had a statewide, but the statewide didn't have a firm number on it like the others did. And I asked about that, and the number for us, because it's based off of how many voters in the state, is why they did that. So ours is for Indiana, statewide would be $400 per month. Let's see, to address one of the questions that I know from Mr. Lundy, who I believe was responding to Ms. Schillings in the email. Me and Mr. Lundy did a walkthrough with one of the owners of the company who is a libertarian and been a libertarian member for many years. We did a walkthrough with him, and we raised the concern that somebody running for a township board may not be able to raise $50 a month for a 1 year to 8 month period. And we talked about ways that we could end up supporting that candidate with the system either way. The language that was added to the agreement that says we can't give direct access was a change from that discussion that we had, but I've come up with some innovative ways to do it anyway. If the state party sends a postcard out and it's sent by the state party supporting Mr. Schultz and his race for city council, it's sent out by the state party, but it is to the benefit of Mr. Schultz. If the state party goes out and goes door knocking for Mr. Schultz in his city council district, it was the state party who did it, organized it, it was us, but it's to the benefit of Mr. Schultz. We as a political organization are allowed to do things and have expenditures for the benefit of our members and candidates. We do need to be reserved in that measure. Someone like I will point to Donald Rainwater in 2020 did not use the state party's e-canvasser because he was going to be using more data. And it was going to be difficult for us to maintain the system for down ticket races. So Mr. Rainwater in 2020 had his own e-canvasser account, which I believe was costing him $450 a month for that because it was a statewide run. I did talk to Miss Alexander. Unfortunately, she's not here. And we did say, like, if a candidate knows that this is something and there's a benefit to it, while it may be a trade-off in resources, if a candidate believes this is a resource, they see the value in it, and they know ahead of time what their cost will be, they can raise it. And she said she thought if it was something that she thought was valuable going door to door, she would be able to, even for her township race, be able to raise that $50 a month. There's also, if need be, the state party can sponsor somebody if need be. The county party can sponsor someone if need be. But so I think that can be worked out. I don't think we're going to ever leave a candidate in the dust, so to speak. the interesting thing about voter gravity is we have our own data points. And so we still have our own data. We still have our own voter registration that we'll be targeting people with. We still have our third-party group that we work with for creating, who's a libertarian, looking at specific issues and things like that. And then we can, using voter ID numbers, tag those people in the voter gravity system. But the voter gravity system is already going to be populated with voter data that they provide. And so in that, you're able to create all of these interesting walk lists and contact lists specific for your campaign. And it has so much more robust ground level data than eCanvasser does, that you're able to hyper drill down to. I think Danny would say that we were both fairly impressed with the system and what it was capable of doing. Candidates can also, as we can as well, use the system to do phone banking, text banking, email campaigns, things like that. There's an additional charge per on those. And it's comparable to what we would have if we were integrating a third party into Civi. They're pretty in line with the same thing, excluding the email. The email is actually more than what we pay for any of our services through Civi or anything else. But the texting and the live phone call and the phone banking is actually about exactly what we would pay through the other systems, which is Twilio and Callfire. It's pretty comparable. So there were additional questions, so I'll just go ahead and shut up. And if you have other questions, Mr. Soltz, I see your hand up first.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking a lot this meeting. So I mean, Mr. Lundy's email, if your original email is like, this is what we'll use instead of eCanvasser, but then Mr. Lundy's email proposed maybe having both around for different uses. Does passing this contract imply ending the contract with eCanvasser? Is there a downside to having both? I guess I don't fully know what we're voting on.
Technically, it wouldn't, but I am going to cut it from the budget at the SCC meeting in March. Somebody else can put it back in, but we spend entirely too much money for a system that most people don't use. And I mean, it costs us several $1,000s a year on top of the other data processing that we do. It's very difficult to export and import. So I will be proposing cutting it from the budget after the SCC meeting, but having voter gravity does not impact that in any way, shape, or form. One of the benefits to using voter gravity as the system is in the event of if Rainwater was using it in 2020, we would have all of Rainwater's data. We wouldn't have to ask him to do the export. Everything that he did, from yard signs, everything else, all of the information that was put into that system would now be available to us, which we can then make available to the next candidate for statewide if we wanted to. We can make it available to the counties. We can make it available to the down ticket races, according to our own data policy. It's very limited in what we actually don't do anything with the eCanvasser data now. We export it, it's in a file, but there's not much of anything that we can do with it right now. But no, authorizing me to sign this agreement does not remove eCanvasser as an option from the table. It's just something that I would be advocating for doing. Does that answer your question, Mr. Soltz?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lomax.
So just to be clear, this is basically, according to this contract, where if a candidate wants an access to whatever their district is, if it's less than 100,000, it's $50 a month for them to access that, and that would be the candidates and the campaign's responsibility, not coming out of the state party's access. And would there be an opportunity, I put it in the chat here, but would there be an opportunity for us to add something into the budget where we incentivize people that use it effectively and add to records, so you kind of gamify and tokenize it and thereby build up a lot more information into the one system.
That is absolutely within reason. We did it actually for eCanvasser a few years ago. We were charging for eCanvasser, and we made it that if you knocked on so many doors and did so much effort, that we would waive the continuing fees. And that, but yeah, we can absolutely, we could do that if we wanted
Okay.
to. Okay, Mr. Lundy, I'm sure you would like to have a moment to speak about it.
Sure. I was actually going to raise my hand. Yeah. I know my email to everybody probably sounded a little bit critical of the system. And I was playing devil's advocate. These are the cons. The software itself, as I kind of concluded in that email, is better than eCanvas. Like, we don't have to change people's addresses when they move. They're getting it straight from Secretary of State in semi-real time, where for me it takes several days for me to update that data. And then there's really no good way to change the data in eCanvasser once it's been uploaded without erasing it and uploading new stuff, meaning people lose which doors they've knocked on and things like that. It's very complicated for us to do it ourselves. Voter Gravity takes all that away and allows us to just focus on quantifying who those people are through those tag systems. Like, hey, these people are libertarians and these people are independents and these are your Republicans and things like that. So I like Voter Gravity a lot. I do. It's a better software. It's a better system. It's going to be easier to use in the field, all of those things. But then I also wanted to make sure I expressed what my concerns were as somebody who's been a down ballot candidate in a small race. And I was fortunate that, a lot of people supported my race. I probably could have afforded it. But even in my campaign, I'm looking at that going, do I really have $400 to spend on this? Or would I rather send out mailers from the voter list? Which one's actually going to be more beneficial? And candidates are going to have to make that decision. On the flip side of that is, you've seen my reports last year on how many people actually use eCanvasser. They bitch, complain, and say, like, I need data. You're not supporting me. We upload, 1,000 doors for them to knock. They hit 5, and then we never hear from them again. So I'm okay with them having skin in the game. I have a problem with $50 a month being that skin. That is a lot of skin for a very small race. Now, our state rep candidates, they should be able to raise this kind of money. I think somebody like a Don Rainwater can totally raise this money. As Evan said, he probably spent about this much money last time. I think that's fine. So it's just, my main concern is, how do we get this great tool to those candidates who are running, they've got 500 voters in their district, and how do we help them? And I like the idea of gamifying it. Like, look, give us $50 for that first month. If you're using it well, we'll sponsor you next month. And then if you don't use it next month, well, you're going to have to pay for it again, or something. Like, we develop some sort of, like Luke said, gamifying or token system that if you're using it, we will help provide that. I think there's also an opportunity for, because the other flip side of that is county parties. How do we allow counties to go out and knock for these candidates who maybe don't have a local candidate? Like Morgan County probably won't have a candidate this year, but we're still going to go out and door knock for candidates. How do we then utilize that? Do we as a county party now have to come up with $400 for it? Or is there a way in this contract that we can say, no, we have a county field officer in Morgan County, and they're a representative of the LPIN using our database to kind of, as long as we can find that workaround, Voter Gravity is the better system. And it costs us nothing to try it. If we get into it, Voter Gravity puts their foot down and says, no, you can't use it that way, and they cause a big problem, we do still have eCanvasser as a fail-safe fallback if we decide we need to do that.
And to attach to Mr. Lundy, unfortunately, you guys didn't get to see the meeting that we had with the co-founder of the company. I was pretty hot with him. I was when I said $50 is a bit too, $50 per month is a bit too much for somebody running for township advisory board. And I said, I think it should be closer to 20 or 25 at the maximum.
And he got upset, and understandably so. It's a good product. I get why he wants paid for it. It's worth paying for. It's worth what they're charging. It's probably worth more than what they're charging.
I mean, we're actually getting a huge discount on the pricing. The candidates are massive discount. But I got really hostile with him to the point where I had to write an apology email to clarify that I'm just trying to protect my candidates, to make sure that the people who are most likely to use it have the ability to use it. So this is me and Danny had thought through scenarios and ways, and he didn't object to any of the scenarios or ways that we came up with either. And I think most of them would still be within order with his contract, Danny. And you
we
guys
also talked about grouping candidates in a place like Tippecanoe County that has 6 candidates. If those guys chip in $10 a month or whatever, then they can get the data they need, and it's way more affordable by spreading it out over more candidates. And they'll still be under their 100,000 voters.
And so, and also, as state chair, and I would hope any other state chair would do this, if you as a district rep come and say, hey, I've got a really good candidate who wants to go out and do this, but they can't raise the $400 to $600. Hopefully it's 600 because they're running for a full year. They can't afford to do this. Mr. Chair, can you help them raise that money? I'm going to get on the phone and call a couple people and try to raise that money for them. Maybe not the full amount, but at least to get them started. But I definitely love the idea of gamifying it where, we have as a state party, we have a fund where like, okay, you did really great. We're going to pay 50%. Because we're getting data back. So it's beneficial to us for them to use it and do it. Ms. Schillings.
Thank you. Just a kind of clarifying question. So if a candidate who wants this $400 a month package, does he get one access point, or does he now have the ability to give his team, like, hey, door knocker, canvassers, I got 20 people. I need them all to have a login account. Is
Right.
that how that works?
The $400 is for their account, and their account can have, my understanding is unlimited walkers and stuff like that. But then they also have an admin team, which I'm sure there's a cap on how many, but it's like with eCanvasser, I think we can only have like 5 admins or 4 admins. So like I'm not an admin on eCanvasser because Michael, Danny, and the political director, and then somebody else from the data team have to be on there. And so I can't even access the eCanvasser because we're over our admin slots. But no, so it's they're getting their own dashboard that is a team. So it's kind of the same way like Civi with the counties. There's the state Civi, and then there'll be the county Civi. That's basically kind of how it works. We're tethered to each other. Does that make sense, Michelle?
Yeah, and also, I think we were limited on the amount of data sets, like contacts we could put into eCanvasser, and I don't think that Gravity has those limitations.
No, it's the full data record.
Right.
So like that was one of the problems was if you have somebody who's really active, you're constantly updating because we had a small pool of contacts that could be within eCanvasser, and now we're moving stuff around, pulling data out and putting more data in. And then you have somebody who doesn't do a thing, but every week, once new data put in, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we pulled the data and we're putting it in. The data team had to figure out what to pull out too. So it was very cumbersome. And that's why the data team was so frustrated. And that's why I would get significantly hostile with candidates who their 5th or 6th time requesting data being appended. I'd be like, hey, listen, if you don't actually go and knock on doors, we're turning it off. And that's why. If they don't want to walk, they're paying for it. It's on them. The data's there. Our data team. And honestly, I would say to the data team, the extra work that they'll be doing, which is actually now a much smaller load, but to do more of the third-party targeting, now they can just say, you're not using the system, we're not doing it. But if they see that they're using the system, then they can be like, okay, we're going to help you target people who have kids in private schools or charter schools. But if you're not walking, they can see it and be like, nah, we're busy.
Thank you for clarification.
I'd like to chime in on that question as well, if you don't mind, Evan.
Go ahead, Mr. Lundy, and then I'll get to you, Mr. Lomax.
To Lori's point, one of the benefits of that this has over eCanvasser is if a candidate is paying for it, they don't log in and see what's going on in Morgan County. They only would see, like, their data person only sees their turf for that specific candidate. So you're also not getting confused, like, hey, why can't I find my thing? Why is it 0 in way over there in somewhere else in the state? Because that was the last person who used it or whatever. They only see what they see. And then there was a question in the chat kind of along the same lines. The LPIN is still a parent to all of the candidates within the state. So we can still see, even if a candidate has their own account, that account is like under us, the way Civi is, so that we can see what that candidate is doing. So.
I'll get to you in just 1 second, Mr. Lomax. I did see Liz posted, I support waiving the fees for people who use it after the first 50. It's not waiving. It has to be paid. And it's paid by the candidates. So we would have to reimburse them for that. And I don't know if that's necessarily a great idea to just make that that could be a bit expensive.
So they would have to pay the full 400 to get access to the dashboard.
No, they're paying monthly. So
Okay.
they pay a monthly fee, but they're paying that to Voter Gravity. They're not paying it to us. They're paying to Voter Gravity for their dashboard, their account. If we were to do something where we gamify it, the likely way that would happen would be the data team would present it, and then we would reimburse people after that. But we wouldn't take over payments, and we can't waive the fee, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mr. Lomax.
So I guess this is just kind of a clarification question. So are we talking about a $400 per month fee to the state party for this system? And then on top of that, the candidates individually for less than 100,000 have to pay 50, for 1 to 250, it's 75. Like, is that the structure of this?
No.
We still have to pay 400 a month as a state party?
No, we pay nothing as the state party.
Okay.
It is free for us as the state party. The fee then is for the candidates that end up using it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what would happen in the instance that you had a candidate that was using their own account, and they, for example, hold an event, to get out in a e-canvassing event. If there are, state central committee members that are out there at that event, would they be logging in under the candidates page or under the state's page?
They would be in their dashboard, because you'd be going as a walker. You guys won't really have access to this. It will be the data team that has access to it, to the state party's account.
Okay.
And then if we, as the state party, if we go on walks or something like that, then the data team will set up like, oh, Lori's going to go walk the 5th district for the state party because we're doing polling, let's say door-to-door, Q&As. That would be through us. But if like using the example of Don Rainwater back in 2020, you would be a walker for the Rainwater campaign in 2020. So you would be logging in through him. And they do have apps, and they work offline too. So it syncs when it's online, and then it works offline, and then syncs later when you're back online, unlike eCanvasser, which does not like to be offline. So if you're in a remote area, eCanvasser will just stop working. Voter Gravity doesn't.
That's only a concern for people that have T-Mobile.
I mean, AT&T. Let's see. There was another question that somebody had, I believe. Are there any other questions or concerns? Did I address all of your questions, Mr. Lomax?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay. I would consider it in order for somebody to move to authorize the chair to sign the Voter Gravity contract on behalf of the LPIN.
So moved.
I believe that was Mr. Kinzer that moved it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll say it was seconded by Mr. Copeland. There is no dollar amount. Is there any objection to doing this by voice vote, or any objection to a voice vote? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Okay, it passes, and I will sign the contract probably Monday. I was going to comment that what Danny said. Not only do they have their own training videos, but they're also providing office hours specifically for libertarians. They have their own setup for that. And they have a lot of hours where you can call in or Zoom in and get immediate support specifically for libertarians, which I thought was really cool. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the HB 1291 statement. We're still good within time. Did everybody get a chance to read the statement that was drafted by the comms committee or comms team and then edited by myself? I'm just going to, state for the record that the LPIN chair has the authority to make any statements on behalf of the party without approval or consent of the SCC. However, on items that are either sensitive or potential controversial topics, it's been my policy to bring it to the SCC for debate, discussion, and consensus before putting out such a statement. HB 1291 regards changing state statute and removing and replacing the term gender with the phrase biological sex. It then goes in to define what a biological sex is, which is somebody who, for female, absent a genetic abnormality, would be able to produce ova. For male, it was the opposite of that. Absent a biological disorder or something, able to produce sperm. That would be the definition of female and male. This has an impact.
People who had vasectomies.
You were at one point, you were born with the ability to produce. It doesn't say now, but at one point we're able to, and which I thought was a very interesting point that they put in there. So if you had a hysterectomy or were never able to produce, it was either because of a medical condition, a genetic disorder, or at one point you were and now can't because of medical intervention. So it's interesting. The changing biological sex and gender are not the same. And it is a concept that is hard for people to grasp and to wrap around. And there's a lot of debate and discussion about it, which is why the state should not, in my opinion, be getting into the business of making those determinations. As pointed out in the draft bill or the draft statement, a person who has fully transitioned from male to female and has had complete sex reassignment surgery, who gets sentenced to jail for cannabis possession, would be put in a men's jail under this law. And I think that that would be incredibly dangerous. I believe that Wabash College would have a problem. They would violate their own terms, not letting her enter into school because under the law, she is a biological male. And so their all-male school will now have a female present, and it can go opposite directions. The statement has what I believe is good enough language on the matter. And it doesn't necessarily state an opinion on trans issues, but it says that the law should treat everyone equally. So with that, I'll yield to, or I'll take statements from people. Starting on deck, I have Mr. Lomax and then Mr. Schultz. Mr. Lomax.
Yeah, so I was as I was reading through the release, I see that separation of support for whatever the different lifestyle or whatever the different rights are, like that separation is made lower down in the lines. But I think as libertarians and as a strong voice in the government, getting as uninvolved in as many social issues as possible, and therein preventing legislation from happening based on them. I think that we need to have something in that tagline right after the first line there, transgender Hoosiers will be made vulnerable under a bill being proposed in the Indiana General Assembly. As a Libertarian Party, we believe that this state government, federal government in general should not be involved in these type of matters, and therefore legislation should not be made pertaining to them. I think something that is a statement of purpose on a principle level for the party, I think would be really strong at the beginning of that. And as it reads right now, you have to get down into it. And I think we might lose a lot of the people that are on the fence and whether or not they want to support it in those first couple of paragraphs, because we don't clearly state what we're trying to say about it. So the people that disagree ideologically but may have libertarian beliefs and believe that the state shouldn't be involved in these decisions or these laws or make laws about it, that they could, still relate to the rest of the statement without having to go all the way in, because people aren't going to read the whole thing. Most of the population that sees this press release is not going to read the whole thing. There's going to be some huge tagline right at the top of the news article, and people are going to see that and be like, oh, the LPIN, they blah 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 blah, I can't support them because they support transgenderism. And I'm like, we're better to just stay off of it as a state party, and not even give that impression or give them something that they can do. So if we make it part of that initial statement, that tagline, I think that'll be a little bit more effective in getting our point across. And I am open to any thoughts that anybody has on that matter as well.
You're muted, Evan.
I know when I was in screen share, it wouldn't let me get to the button to unmute. I wanted to say, I'm going to bring this back up so you can see it, and then I'm just not going to mute myself again. This line right here that I think you're referring to that I have highlighted is just the subject line. This is actually the start of the press release, is where it says House Bill 1291. So how would you like to have that worded or placed in here?
Well, I'm just saying in the subject line to make the subject line more clear about that. That
most people, the only people who will see that are the newspapers.
Okay.
Just FYI. That's why I'm saying that is because
okay.
this is where it would actually start, is right here. This is actually just it may be visible on the website as the headline, but this is where the actual meat of the stuff is. Does that make sense, Mr. Lomax?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the actual meat of the press release starts down here. Okay. Right. All right.
And so think about that for a moment, if you would, sir. And I'm going to go to Mr. Lomax and then to Ms. Schillings. So if you want to think about that for a second, how you'd like that worded, where you'd like to put in, because I'm not going to do it for you, but you can tell me what you want. Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm not going to go to the barricades on this. I'll say my piece and then I'll probably be done. I understand. I anticipate being in the minority. That's okay. I'm friends with everyone. Hope I can remain friends with everyone, but just need to explain why my vote will likely be the way that it will be by the end. So I have read through 1291, all of it, at least all of the places where it replaces gender with sex. If I had the choice to just get a lot of these laws off the books entirely, I would. However, given that the laws exist and they do currently address gender, it's not as though it's adding something in, it's just changing gender to sex. When they were written, the spirit, it would have been understood generally as sex back in the days where they would have still referred to someone as having that gender, but they might have used different words for, cross-dresser or transvestite or whatever they would have used at the time. State institutions run by the state, and even if we don't think they should exist, they do need to have rules about where different people go. They need some kind of objective determination. I understand the concern about a fully transitioned person. However, how do you determine when a person is fully transitioned? Who determines that? It seems to make sense to me that there be some, I mean, if you're going to have these non-discrimination things and these regulations around state institutions, there have to be an objective determination. And it seems if these are going to exist, biological sex is the only way to get around the issue of ambiguity on, gender is a spectrum, right? And that's what we're told. So if it is a spectrum, you have to get around the ambiguity in some way. So that's my position. I rise in opposition to this proposal from the LPIN. Like I said, I intend to be in the minority. I respect everyone here. I hope you respect my position, but I'm afraid I can't support it. Thank you.
And for a point of clarification for you, Mr. Saltz. So I obviously read the bill too. I went through it line by line. And specifically with state institutions, you're right. There is ambiguity and there should be change. This removes all of it. Every single person who is a biological sex will go to that prison. Right now, under the authority, because it says gender, the prisons have the authority to say, you're just a dude in pigtails. We're not sending you to the women's prison because you just claim you're transgender. You've made no effort to transition. You're not on any hormones. You haven't been going to the mandated therapies. You've not done anything. So there is that ambiguity where the prison authority is allowed to make that determination. This removes that. This says a person who now has what appears to be female sex organs must be sent to a male prison. That's what this law does. That's what caught me. And that's why normally I keep my mouth shut and say, you know what, it's just, bigots will bigots. But in this case, this is something that actually does something very dangerous that is going to cost people their lives. That was my thing. And I get what you're saying. I do. I really, really do. And I understand it. And there are places where biological sex has changed, where gender has changed to biological sex, which actually makes a whole lot of sense to me. That maybe it shouldn't be gender. But to the wholesale slaughter, changing it from gender to biological sex, this isn't about removing ambiguity in the law. To me, this seems more like we just want to make sure that we're taking another legislative cycle to hammer at transgender Hoosiers is really what it looks like to me. Miss Schillings was next, and then Mr. Copeland.
I was just going to speak to the fact that I support this piece of, what do you want to call it? Your
statement.
Rebuttal. Your statement. I think it's fine the way it is. I do want to clarify that I agree that there should be some, summary statement in the first paragraph about libertarians believe government shouldn't be interfering in normal lives. As a rule, they should stay out of it, right? Something along that theory.
So just because this is kind of brought up a second time. So the second paragraph says the legislature, and this is supposed to be a quote directly from me as the state chair, the legislature is inserting the state into individual choices, putting a blanket, firm legal statute in place that overrides the rights of Hoosiers to peaceably live their lives on their own terms. Libertarian Party of Indiana State Chair Evan McMahon said. This would, as a matter of law, put fully transitioned people in immediate danger. You're wanting more.
I think maybe in the first paragraph about House Bill,
okay,
your statement is supporting of your opinion. I think in the first paragraph, we should put a libertarian statement that is more generally worded for common readership to understand.
So after, in the sentence, the Libertarian Party of Indiana stands in opposition to HB 1929, comma, the statement from our position, which we'll workshop here now,
right,
comma, and encourage the Indiana legislature to vote no on this heinous piece of legislation. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
so insert
platform
something
idea, then vote no. Yes.
Here, I got you right here. Hang on.
So I'm gonna say insert
chat
position.
Here's
Is that what you're thinking, Michelle Links?
That's exactly what I was thinking, something along those lines. And it's got to be quick, concise, and digestible by the common reader who's not educated about legalese.
I have to stop my share to see. Oh, maybe I don't. Hold on. Yeah, I do. I have to stop share. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Haha, there we go. Okay. That is a lot, Mr. Lomax.
He's just replaced the entire paragraph.
Yeah. Can we not do that? Oh wait, okay, I'm sorry. Um,
Yeah, he just
So-
added a few words there. He just retyped the whole paragraph for you.
I'm trying to find where he added the words though.
Oh, I was muted, sorry. Facilitates potential discrimination on a state level based on the lifestyle or identity of individuals. We therefore strongly encourage Indiana legislators to vote no on this heinous piece of legislation.
Okay, I think I've got it here. And I'm gonna do this. See, this is I hate Zoom. It's not letting me copy the chat. I can't copy it over. I'm sorry. Okay, so where exactly does it start? Does it say the Libertarian Party stands in opposition of HB 1291 and then starts here? Like this? Actually, Mr. Lomax, you're muted. Can you just email me real quick?
Yes. Yeah, I've got it replaced on here, so I'll just email it to you here real quick.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Is this a motion to amend on the floor, or are you making a friendly amendment to change your proposal, or what am I writing down?
This is essentially, we are working together to craft the statement. This is this is very loose policy. So
no motion has been made.
No motion has
been made. Have to be an amendment. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We are in discussion on the statement. The motion that'll be made is to move to accept the statement as presented, or the statement as amended, I guess, and then
as presented by the board or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I sent that to the entire SCC.
Okay, I'm going to stop my share for a second while I go check my email.
On a personal note, thank you for doing it that way. That makes my life much easier.
You're welcome.
I was talking to Evan, but thank you too. You're a nice guy.
To this, just so we can make sure that it's.
Luke, I actually like your amendment as the first statement. Like if you were to move that sentence up to the first sentence, I think it actually reads better.
Where it says the Libertarian Party.
This
No, he means instead of having House Bill 1291 replaces gender with biological sex, like move that sentence down after the rest of the statement.
It makes it about us instead of
like
the bill.
Before we therefore strongly encourage. So just move it from there and then put it before the W and the we therefore strongly encourage.
Like this?
Yes.
Yeah, because then the first statement says Libertarian Party of Indiana stands in opposition to legislation limiting rights or freedoms of any citizen. And then that is the main point of everything else, right?
Yes.
Everything else supports that statement. That's your anchor statement.
Thank you. You're spot on with that. Thank you very much.
Then the second sentence is the fact in the world
Right.
that brought up that anchor statement as a concern.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Correct. I think it reads better that way.
I'm going to say, Indiana House Bill 1291. And I'm going to remove this because I don't think we didn't catch that before, but it should not be we, it should be the Libertarian Party. Because this is a press release. We don't have we and us statements in press releases unless it's a quote.
So then you have to change encourage to encourages.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just sent a paragraph. I don't know if it reads better, if it's the same as what you had. I'm sorry. I emailed it.
Would you post it in the chat so that we can review it here before I have to stop sharing my screen and go and look at it?
It may be the same. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You added a little bit when their actions do not harm others.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're hurting people, we are opposed to that force, right? And I don't think being a gender hurts anyone. It's
let me see.
they are. It's not like they're.
I like that it says that limits the rights or freedoms instead of limiting rights.
I mean, we've always held that your rights and freedoms stop at another person. So, you know, if you are harming somebody else, you don't have the right and freedom to harm somebody else.
But people outside the party don't necessarily know that.
They don't know what we know.
Yeah, I think that is a very important distinction. You're absolutely right.
Let's see, where was it? Any citizen when their actions do not harm others.
My anarchist coming out. I didn't recognize that in the original statement. So thank you for keeping me in check, Lori.
Right. And it's just, you have to think about this as someone who doesn't know anything about what we believe. We have to put it in very clear terms. And they're going to be like, yeah, they're not hurting anybody. Or they're going to be like, no, I don't hurt anybody. I shouldn't be messed with either. They have to relate their personal internal thoughts and feelings to what they're reading.
And I wanted to include that, you know, so there was like that overrides the rights of Hoosiers to peaceably live their lives on their own terms. And there, I mean, that was an edit that I made. And then down here, one of the edits that I made, I moved some of this around on the prisons and schools, and I added more on the ID. It said before it could also complicate individuals attempting to change their names or even the simple act of procuring a driver's license or state issued ID. I added the part about voting.
Right.
And then
which I think is an important point, because getting a state issued ID was a chore.
Yeah.
And they want one for voting rights now. So basically they're saying transgender people can't vote.
Yeah.
And part of the bill that really bothered me, because, you know, people can point at the incarcerated or the student housing issue as kind of voluntary, like, and almost a small minority and easily solvable, like just don't go to jail or get off campus housing. But the missing persons and trafficked persons services, like, you know, missing persons reports really bothered me, because this is something that person can't control, period. You know, it's outside of their control. And when a report comes out saying we're looking for a male when it's a transgendered female that looks in all rights as a female, it could cause confusion.
Oh, so that's a very solid point. If you're looking for a female with a beard,
yeah,
like
And the interesting thing about like dormitories is you can't just choose to not live on campus. Every public school in Indiana requires freshmen to live in dorms. So I guess you just don't go to college then. That's the answer. So the other section that I changed from what Mr. Smith had originally sent me was this paragraph here. By replacing gender and biological sex in anti-discrimination statutes, the state will essentially remove transgender, and it said as a protected class, allowing discrimination while still preventing discrimination by race, religion, and other factors. So I added this section actually, essentially remove transgender people as full citizens with agency and sovereignty over their own lives and self-expression.
Yeah, protected class is triggering for some people.
Right, because if you
It's a
say
good
that, they're
change.
going to be like,
I
well,
like
they
it.
shouldn't be protected. We don't like trans people. And it's like, no, they have their own agency. They have their own sovereignty over their own lives. And so that's,
Yeah.
I wanted to clean that up a little bit. Leave a little less ambiguity and leave a little less room for somebody to say, something. I mean, people are going to say garbage things on both sides. I am very sure that we will get hate mail from the trans community and hate mail from the anti-trans community.
Then we're doing
That's how I
something
know it's
right.
successful.
Yep.
So how does this final wording read? Is there anything else that people would prefer to change or like to change? And Mr. Soltz, feel free to chime in.
I just want to know that if I rob a bank dressed as a woman and they put out a all points bulletin to be on the lookout for a female, and then they catch me and I'm actually a biological male, if I could sue them based on this law?
No, not really. And even if this law wasn't in place, it wouldn't be.
But that's the whole point of profiling, and I agree with profiling. Why are we looking for a black man if it's clearly a white man that did the crime? Why would we be looking for a female if it's clearly someone that looks male?
I mean, not to get too down the rabbit hole here, there are times where sex does matter. A paramedic needs to be informed of the actual biological sex of the person they're being sent to help, because there are health consequences
that are different. Yeah.
Right. But you can do that in a respectful way. But, saying it's ladies' night at our bar, there's some things that are just, come on, there's no reason for you to be so hostile. Hostile and so uninviting and unwelcoming that you would put it in state statute.
I know Jay's solution, because we talked about the paramedic situation before, is change the law so that you can add a transgender or a T. Like instead of just putting an M, you put FTM in that section, right? And then the paramedic knows immediately what's going on, right?
Yeah. If
those
I
are
was
the
in the
correct
legislature
changes,
right
not
now,
this.
if I was in the legislature right now, that is actually what I would be doing. And I would be changing all of the gender and biological sex to comport with that.
But Jay doesn't need a law to be passed to force him to comply with that. He'll do it for.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. The correct fix is just adapt your system to include these people, not exclude them,
so that they can operate within the framework.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last comments on this matter?
I like the changes, and I just want to thank everybody for those suggestions.
Okay. I would accept a motion adopting this language to be a statement to be released by the LPIN.
So moved.
Moved by Miss Alexander, by Miss Coquillard.
Second.
Seconded by, was it Mr. Lomax? Okay, Mr. Lomax. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no.
No.
Any expressed abstentions? Okay, hearing none. It is adopted and it will go out next week, both on social and as a press release and posted to our website. I do want to thank you guys for the care of having this debate and discussion and conversation in a respectful manner. And okay, so the final item on the agenda is February SCC meeting. And I do not have a location for the in-person meeting for February, which I don't even remember the date of the meeting now. I'm so bad. I believe it's the 17th of February is our meeting.
17th.
Yeah, I don't have a location and I'm too busy with candidates and the convention and all the other stuff to really try to do that. Is there any objection to changing it to an online remote meeting?
I can't attend anyway, so no.
Have we met the bylaws requirements for the number of in-person meetings?
I don't believe there are any.
Or is that a standing rule?
It's just a standing rule. And our thing is every other month, but it's not, there's no firm rule on it. I think at one point we said there had to be at least 4 per year, which we've definitely had more than 4 in person. Actually, it's a new year.
That was a question of mine. Does our new year, like, does our SCC year start in March and go through March?
Yeah.
Or does it January to January?
So the budget, our budget, the terms, everything goes from convention end to convention end.
Mm-hmm.
So you serve from the moment the gavel is dropped on Saturday evening when the convention closes, you are the district rep, or the officer is now the officer until the next annual convention when the gavel drops again. And that's how our budget is essentially designed as well, assuming we
Great.
meet.
That was a question that was raised because I was trying to get some district monies.
Yep,
so I was
yeah,
like,
till
I think
March.
it goes March to March. So
Yep.
Okay.
It's convention to convention. Our budget is March to March, but the convention or the new SCC could always change something if they wanted to. They can amend the budget at any point. Mr. Schultz, Mr. Secretary.
So it is in the bylaws. At least one in-person business meeting will be held at least once each quarter.
Okay.
So we need to keep that in mind.
We will be meeting in March because we meet immediately after the SCC. So we are within rolling. Is there any objection to moving, having that information? Any objection to moving the February 17th SCC meeting from in-person to remote?
No.
Okay, actually, there was actually a motion made by Mr. Lomax, so I will consider that motion in order. Mr. Lomax moved to change to a remote meeting for February 17th. Is there a second?
I would second it.
It was seconded by Mr. Kinzer. Let me know, Mr. Schultz, Mr. Secretary, if I'm going too fast.
No, you're good.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no.
No.
Too bad. Sorry, Liz. So the motion carries.
That was Christy, not Liz.
Oh, was it Christy?
Completely in support.
Okay, well, Christy can come to my house and she can sit next to me while we have the remote meeting on February 17th.
Can I bring my dog?
Yes, then Vincent can have a play date. Let's see, just for clarification, once we get the bylaws committee summary from the bylaws committee, I will be sending that out via an email for discussion, and then I'll be moving a motion from the chair to adopt at that point, all via email. Please do respond to that email thread and that email ballot as soon as possible. That way we don't have to call a special meeting to do it. With that, are there any announcements? Hey, hearing no announcements, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Hagerman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lundy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. I'm pretty sure that was Mr. Schick that seconded though.
Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed say nay. All right, great. We are adjourned and we are 6 minutes early. Yay. So I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you everybody for attending today.